Hello, thank you for tuning in to Spotlight Podcast. I'm your host, Little A. Today, we'll be speaking to Ernie. We'll be talking about his journey and how remarkable his transformation was. Raised by a young single mother, he faced numerous challenges early on from making life moments and decisions, undergoing and, and personal transformations. Ernie's story is both inspiring, insightful. As an author and coach, he is now helping high achieving men find balance and happiness in a legendary and legacy of their own, where they can be proud of themselves. Today we're gonna jump in the first question and see where you're from. Where you from, sir?
I'm in San Diego, California.
San Diego, California. Is that where you grew up at?
I grew up in the high desert in a little town called Barstow, California. I lovingly call it the butthole of California. It's super hot, sweaty, and nobody really wants to live there, man. But that's
How
how
was it
far.
like how was it like growing up there in your childhood?
It was a different experience. It was a good little town for a while, and then it turned into a very bad little town. There was a lot of just like lot of gang stuff started happening around the later 80s, early 90s. We had a big influx of gang activity from LA. So it was difficult at times, but it's everything is what you make of it, right? We I still have friends that I chat from. My best friends are still friends that we were from second grade on. So
That's cool. Um, what are the biggest challenges you faced in your early years?
my biggest challenges was, my mother was 14 years old when she had me, basically raised me by herself, my brother and I, and then um, just growing up without a dad, I guess, is a lot of people's challenge nowadays. And then I got into some bad things in life. I became a little bit racist. I became a little bit of, I would steal stuff, and I ended up, going in the Navy the same week that I found out I was going to be a dad for the first time. I got in trouble at one of my jobs from I was stealing, and then I decided to join the Navy, and that was one of my first big decisions to help me start moving past some of the crap that I was getting into.
Can you share a specific moment or experience from your childhood that significantly shapes you where you are today?
A specific moment, I don't think there was like a specific moment in my childhood that shapes who I am today. I think just the overall experience of not have, I didn't have that discipline kind of, or that dad there to help structure me in some ways. So, which led me to go down some bad ways. And then I went to into the Navy, which actually helped with creating that discipline. And then I've built upon that discipline throughout my life. Took a lot of work to create that discipline because I never finished anything. I always blamed everybody else for anything that I lacked. So I was always felt like I was owed something. Yeah, man. So I couldn't. There's not a specific moment, but the whole general thing kind of made me the person I am today because I had to learn from all the crap.
How old was you when you had your first kid?
My first kid, 18. Let's see. I think actually, I just turned 20. I just turned 20 when I found out that I was going to have him.
I asked that because I'm a young teenage dad. I actually had mine when I was 16, so
Oh,
just had
okay.
to get that out there. When you found out you were going to be a father, how did that moment change your perspective and decision movement forward?
It was a big change because as I said earlier, my dad wasn't around, so I knew that I wasn't going to be that kind of dad. And so, because I wasn't headed down a very good path, I was still doing, stupid thing. Like I said, got caught stealing at my work. I knew I had to change. I had to do something different. I had to get out of that town, get away from some of the stuff that I was into. And it's huge difference. I remember I was a pretty crazy driver, But I remember pulling out of the hospital the first time with my son, and I was driving so slow because I didn't want his little head to move in the in the car seat. It's a total. I'm sure you experience it too.
Yeah.
It's a total different experience seeing your somebody that's your flesh and blood for the first time, right? It's a different kind of love that I couldn't explain. I couldn't ever explain it.
You can't explain that love, especially when you there and you see them come out for the first time, meeting them for the first time, seeing, counting fingers. Something you can't explain. So it's a level of joy. So
Definitely.
what was the tipping point that led you to join the Navy, and how did your decision impact that in life?
Well, the tipping point, like I said, was I got caught stealing, and then I had to pay back some stuff, and I tried to make it all right, but I just knew that when my kid was coming, I had to get out of there, had to go do something that was beneficial. The military is very good for most people. It's going to it's going to help create some kind of discipline, some kind of structure in your life. And I ended up joining, like I said, the U.S. Navy, and was a nuclear machinist mate on a submarine for 5 years, 5.5 years. Yeah, and it just moved me on. That was my first stepping stone to being a better person, being a good or as good of a father as I could be.
I thank you for service.
Thank you.
Uh, what type? Well, you say you got caught up by stealing, correct?
Yeah.
Alrighty. Did the Navy help you get out of jail, get you out of trouble?
Well, I didn't actually have to go to jail, and it wasn't one of those circumstances. I know some people get caught, and then the judge kind of gives them, "Hey, you go to the military or you go to jail." Fortunately, I it wasn't big enough where I was going to go to jail, but it was big enough where I ended up paying quite a bit of money back. Like I said, made the amends by paying the money back, getting some of the product back, getting that all cleared up, and then that was it.
All right. In your late 30s, what did you see in the mirror that made you realize you needed to change?
I just I was just never truly happy with myself. I always say I had moments of being happy. Seeing my child born or my children born was super happy. We played sports or they played sports. I coached. We won some games. We did different things. Those were like moments of happiness. But I never really liked the guy I was because I had a lot of anger issues. I was always grumpy, always pissy about something, always complaining, always whining. I never was grateful for anything. And I just looked in the mirror and I was just knew that I wasn't supposed to be that guy. Didn't want to be that guy anymore, and I was going to change.
What was your first steps you took in the journey from as so to awesome?
The first steps were I tried several. I don't even know. I've probably read 400, 500 different self-help books, and I would get to a certain level where I thought I was doing pretty good, but then something would happen and I would be a jackass again. And finally, I came to a realization that I didn't even know where I was starting from. Like, what was really wrong with me? Why didn't I, like, why couldn't I get to that spot? Because all of us, they say write your goals and focus on the goals and do all this stuff. But if you don't know where you're starting from or what you lack, it's hard to build upon that, right? Say if Same thing with people that go on diets. They go on a diet and they think that this crash diet is going to help them out, but usually within 2 months they gained all their weight back plus 5 pounds, and it's because they didn't even know really what the main problem was that was causing them to be overweight in the first place. They just try to do a crazy fix that they see online. So I looked inside myself, and what I lacked forgiveness, I lacked gratitude, and I lacked empathy. I didn't could not forgive anybody. I held grudges all the time. I did not care what anybody else's opinion was, really. It was like my opinion or the highway kind of deal.
Can you share a particular change you faced during your transformation journey and how you overcame it?
The biggest change during my transformation journey was probably forgiving, and then also learning that I'm not ever going to be perfect. There is no such thing as perfection. I had to start by forgiving myself for all my little mistakes that I made because I always held them like inside. As a father, I was pretty strict because I didn't ever want to be looked upon as like a bad father. So I was super strict. My kids hardly ever made mistakes. I mean, they weren't allowed to, get a B in school or they got in trouble. They were super structured and learning that you're not perfect, they're not perfect, nobody's going to be perfect, and it isn't a win or lose situation in everything in life. It's either you win or you learn, and learning is winning, so you can constantly win. That was the biggest thing, man, was learning to forgive myself, and then I was able to forgive my father, and then all the way down the road for all the other things.
So, what inspired you to write your book, and what message did you want to send over to your readers?
I just at first I started talking about writing the book, and I thought it was kind of funny, like the title, "Asshole to Awesome." It came across a little humorous. I was like, man, that's kind of catchy. And then while I was in my process of trying to be awesome or getting better, I started chatting with other people, and a lot of people had the same issues. Like they couldn't ever get past whatever their sticking point was. And so I figured, you know what? Let me just see if I can put together a book that can share what I did and see if it can help somebody else. And I've had ever since it's been out, I haven't sold as many as I wanted to yet, but I've had really good feedback on it, and I just use it right now. I just use it as all the profits from my book just go to help somebody else. So that's kind of my one of my little acts of kindness that I try to do every single day is so.
Were there any surprising reactions or feedbacks you received from your readers after you published the book?
No, there wasn't actually like I said, I actually had pretty good feedback. I have a bunch of 5-star reviews and everybody, they liked the book. There's a couple errors in it which kind of drove me crazy when I was putting it out, but again, we're not perfect. But yeah, I was expecting some pushback. I think the only guy that I really got any pushback was from my stepson. We didn't chat too much because when me and his mother separated, we lost kind of communications. But yeah, he had the hardest point with it, and he got to express his feelings towards me, and we haven't talked since. He blocked me after that, but that was the only one that was kind of a tough one.
Can you tell me what drove you to leave a successful job to pursue passion for coaching highest achieving men?
Am I allowed to cuss on here?
Go ahead.
I just got tired of the bullshit, man. Like it was constant shit. Like it's crazy, man. In our job markets today, usually the bot and it's not all bosses, but most bosses are absolutely horrible leaders. They like a lot of people get promoted to their maximum level of incompetency, and I think I was just tired of being bossed or jacked around by somebody that I had no respect for. I actually told him that. I told him I cannot work for somebody I don't respect, and I don't respect you anymore, so I'm not working for you anymore. And then that helped because just before that, maybe 2 months before that, my mother passed away, and we had a hard like when she passed, it was not a good thing. She went out kind of in a bad way, and then that happened. And then I was just time for me to get out by myself, and if I can help other people, be successful in their life and not and enjoy it. And that's where I think a lot of people are nowadays is because they can be successful money wise, but they're screwing up other parts of their life. And if you watch people like look around when you're out and about, I mean, 70% of the people are obese, overweight. People are always in constant state of dehydration. People don't eat right. People don't freaking breathe right. And look at like people are pissed off. A lot of people are just mad. Like when they're driving around, they're just mad all the time. They pull in a parking spot mad. They park. They don't care about anybody else. And I think it's just little tiny tweaks in our behavior, and we could fix a lot of this stuff, man.
Can you describe a moment that you felt a real impact through your coaching?
Yeah, I think it was actually before I started like my coaching. Is when I was working at the car dealership, I got a team, and I was a new closer, the new sales manager, and they gave me like five of the bottom, guys, and we worked together, and we created this good team, and all of a sudden, all five of those guys were in the top seven for 4 of the 6 months that I was their coach or their leader, their team lead, and it was just like super. It's something inside, like if you have that coach or like leadership thing inside of you, and you can help somebody succeed and do things that they've never done before. A couple of these guys, one of the guys made almost 20 grand in 1 month. That, like, the most he ever made before was eight. And so we took him from making 8 grand at the top to he almost made, it was just under 20 grand. It was like 19 and a half thousand in 1 month. So it was like, that was like cool. It was like almost being a dad again, like helping people get to that next level of what they need to get. And it's not hard. It's just little tweaks in the change. Again, it's just little tiny tweaks, man.
I was asking my people, what questions should I ask you? And they said, since you serve, they wanted to know, did you do, like, in the Navy, did you do any type of special ops, or was you in any type of wars back then that you can talk about with us?
No, so special ops, when I first started to go in, I actually, that's what I thought I was going to try to do, was be a Navy SEAL, because I was in pretty damn good shape. So I thought I was going to be Johnny Badass going in there. But I'm so glad I did not go that way, because my ass would have been out in a minute, because I did not have the fortitude, the mind, or anything to make it past it. But what I ended up doing was, I was a nuclear machinist mate on a submarine, which is, in its own right, it's almost as rare as some of the special ops stuff, because the nuclear school at that time was the third most difficult school in the nation at that time. And then there's actually less people with dolphins in the world than there are millionaires or billionaires. So it's like a seclusive club. Uh, but I mean, being underwater for 69 days in a row was probably one of the worst things ever. We had a couple weird, little things happen here and there where we'd have to go on silence, where we run deep and go super, super quiet, which is a pretty freaking nerve wracking thing, to be, 1,000 feet under the water and hearing nothing but the boat crackle a little bit.
Man, I couldn't do all that.
I tell you what, it messed you up. By the end of there was some days there, it was kind of like, man, this is not good. But it's all learning experience, right?
Right. You're a better man than I, 'cause I couldn't do it. I'd be in there panicking.
We did have a few, man, and then just being the jerks that we were, if you showed any sign of weakness, we were gonna exploit it, and it got pretty brutal sometimes.
Yeah, I bet it can. I'd be watching some of those movies, and it just made me think, is this what goes on those ships in real life, or this is what they really do?
Some of the stuff is pretty damn accurate, man.
Man, like I said, you're a strong man. I couldn't do it. But what are some of the common changes that high achieving men face when they are trying to create a balanced life?
So some of the changes, I think the biggest thing is that what I've noticed is there's a lot of ego, right? When you succeed in business and you reach a certain level of success, you're going to have a certain attitude, certain charisma, lack of charisma, whatever about you. And a lot of times these guys have never really had to be held accountable, right? Because they're creating something and there's nobody above them. So they're creating, and then they don't have that person there to hold them accountable to what they're missing. And so what I find is, like, most of them like to argue about the whole balance thing. But when you chat with them, like, you'll find out the one guy, he's, way overweight. And another guy is working on his third marriage. Another guy has, like, drinking 5 energy drinks a day and he can barely freaking, function. But once you're able to create, I always say it's the fundamentals. And the fundamentals in our life is sleep, hydration, movement, and then what when we eat and what we eat. And when you can get those dialed in, you can operate so much better at a higher optimal level than where we're normally at today. I think most of us today are operating at 40 to 50% of what people did in the 80s and 90s just because of the phones, computers, the stupid shit that's in our food. It's crazy, man.
It's a lot of stuff that's in this food that I'm finding out that's very, very unhealthy that they putting in there. So I just been, like you said, Googling and finding research. A lot of reading. Can you tell me what success stories have you had from your clients of you helping them achieve happiness and balance?
One of the coolest ones was actually I worked with this younger guy. Again, he was from the car dealership, and he's a fantastic sales guy, but he was starting to get to a spot where he was just like not liking life. Like he hated going to work. He wasn't working out yet. He was just kind of going through the motions. So we started working on every morning he writes a couple things about like what he's grateful for. So we started changing his mindset to look for things to be grateful for. He started doing some push-ups and some body weight squats. So last time I saw him, he had a little bit of shoulder muscles up in there, and he was actually looking like, like he was doing some stuff. And it was just awesome to see that it was so easy to change from being negative about what you're doing to making it positive. And just knowing like sometimes we're going to have jobs that we hate, but you have to like you're going to have to be at a place sometimes in your life where you don't want to be, but you got to be there. So be there, be happy about it. Don't be satisfied, but know that you're there to get to where you need to go, right? And that's the big thing that a lot of us forget is we're always thinking either too far ahead or too far behind instead of living in that present moment and actually enjoying life.
You're right about that one. Can you tell me, when you look back on your life, is there anything you wish you had done differently?
Before I learned forgiveness and gratitude and all that stuff, every freaking day of my life I was always thinking, man, I wish I would have done that different. Wish I would have done that different. But now like where I'm at in my life, I don't think there's anything that I wish I would have done different, man, because it brought me to where I'm at. If, maybe if this didn't happen, I wouldn't be here where I'm at. And I'm I'm happy where I'm at now. I like the guy I am. I like my family, my wife, my grandkids, my kid, everybody. It's got some good friends that I hang around with, and I like it, man. So I wouldn't change anything.
How long you been married?
First wife was 20 years. This my current wife is 5 years. We've been together 10 years though. So we got married on 2/20/20, or yeah, 2/20/2020, right before the COVID pandemic. We were over in Hawaii and almost got stuck over there during that crazy stuff, man. So yeah, it's been fun.
Oh man, what was that experience like almost getting stuck?
I'll tell you what, because in some ways, I think I might have took COVID over to Hawaii because I was feeling like crap before our wedding and nobody really knew what this COVID thing was. But one of the guys that I was with, we were both horrible, like just not feeling good. And then all of a sudden, pretty much every one of our symptoms was just like right in line with COVID is. And we were over there, did our wedding, and we started hearing more and more about it. And the day that I flew back in, my job closed down. So like everybody was closing down. Luckily, mine, they wanted us to keep on working through it, so it didn't affect us too much. But those first couple of days were a little bit like, I don't know if the right word is scary or unsettling, maybe.
Yeah, it's like unsettling. I actually had it. I believe I caught it because I'm a forklift driver. So I load trucks and stuff. I think I actually caught it through the building from one of the drivers. It was very unpleasant. So yeah.
Yeah, I had it, I think twice. The first time, obviously before, and then the second time, I got my ass kicked by it, man. but I ended up in the hospital. But I had COVID, influenza A, and pneumonia all piled on at the same time. So yeah, I got the trifecta of the bull crap at that time. So, but hey, we're here. I didn't get
Yeah.
no damn shots, and not gonna get them.
Me neither. How do you define happiness and joy in your own life?
Happiness is just, to me, is that inner feeling where you're at peace with who you are. Um, Kind of give you an explanation of that is when you can be okay with yourself making mistakes, or you can be okay with yourself in your in a room by yourself with no music on, just breathing and not doing anything. To me, that is my inner peace, man. Because if you chat with a lot of people, they cannot be in a room by themselves for more than 1 minute without some kind of music on or some kind of stimulation. I found that that was always one of those things that just bugged me, man. I just, because I was never comfortable by myself. I always had to have somebody around or talking to somebody. And now, dude, I can sit here for hours and just meditate, be at peace. I'm like a monk, man. I sit there and do my little cross-legged thing and breathe and just enjoy life, man.
I actually just got in meditating myself, and it's been a little more peaceful. I've been more calm, more relaxed, more. It's like you can see more things, more vision a little bit clearly. So for people that don't meditate, I advise you to kind of start get into it because it's very helpful.
Oh,
Okay.
man, 1000% agree. I'll just throw on top of that, check out Wim Hof breathing, man, to help go along with that meditation. It's called Wim Hof, Wimhoff. They call him the Iceman. I'll tell you what, I've been doing that for about 3.5 years, and that has been it helped me get rid of depression, a little bit of anxiety stuff that I had going on. But I haven't had a day of depression since I started doing it, and I have depression that runs in my family pretty bad. So check that out too.
All right, I'm gonna have to check that out. Could you tell me what advice would you give to someone who feels stuck and wants to embark on their own journey of transformation?
Biggest advice is figuring out where you're at, right? It's not about where everybody else is at. It's about where you're at. What do you want to do? What do you want to accomplish? Because even when you're married and you have kids, it's not about them per se. Same thing like when you're in an airplane, right? They tell you to put that mask on yourself because you got to save yourself before you can save anybody else. And I think a lot of people try to start focusing on, when they're doing a change, they want other people to change with them. But that doesn't happen, man, because if they don't want to change, nobody's going to change. So you have to start with yourself and find out where you're at. Find out what triggers you, like what pisses you off, what makes you happy, what makes you mad, what, like, and also, I'm sorry about that, but whatever, like, also you got to put in those fundamentals. You have to get the right amount of sleep. You have to be hydrated. You have to know how to breathe. And you have to have movement in your life, man. Too many of us sit around. The average American walks less than 50. Let's see. They walk less than 46 steps, 4,600 steps a day. Where like at 5,600 steps, there's all kinds of extra good stuff that goes on in your body, like cortisol flushes, testosterone boosts, just a lot of good stuff. And we don't even get there to allow the natural stuff to happen for us. So those are the things that I would definitely start with.
Would you consider a workout plan? And if so, what would you consider doing?
So it's funny because a lot of people ask about the workout plan. I think if you're already in a good spot, 100% add a workout plan. But if you're just at that, not even getting to the minimum, my workout plan would be getting some sleep, drinking enough water, and I always use Celtic sea salt. It helps drive in the water to the body, retains the water. I just put a pinch in 4 times a day. But getting enough movement, just getting to that 5,600 steps and then trying to get to the 10,000 steps. That's how you start building, because too many people go and they go straight to the gym, right? and they think that all of a sudden they can start working out 30 minutes to an hour a day. If you've never done it, that shit's hard. But so start with little tiny habits, start with the little micro habits and build upon those. And then once you get better and better, and then you start adding more and more. Like right now, I'll just give you like my little thing. I wake up every single morning. Like I have algorithms how I run my day. I wake up, I do meditation, I do my Wim Hof breathing, I hydrate, and then I go work out. And I work out, I either do 30 to 45 minutes, either I do some yoga stuff 2 to 3 days a week. I do some full body stuff the other days, and then I do 300 push-ups every single day, no matter what. I'm on a pace for 100,000 for the year, so I got to hit that goal. And that's the way I do every single morning. And it didn't start with doing all that. It started with just my workout, and then I added the breath, and then I added, the hydration. Just build. Only way to really, really succeed is building little tiny habits and building upon those. Because if you do big changes, that shit falls apart every time.
You're right about that one. So could you tell me what other daily practices and habits to ensure you stay balanced and fulfilled?
I think I spoke about one earlier was my gratitude journal. So every day I either write, or when I'm doing my breath work, I do 3 things that I'm grateful for. One about myself, one about my wife, and then one about the rest of the world. And what that does is just keeps that mindset, right? You're always looking for something to be grateful for. And then so that's a big one. That's one of the biggest ones. That helps the mindset so much. And then the other stuff, like the sleep and the working out, because your physiology drives your psychology. Once you start feeling better about yourself, and then your brain starts feeling better, now you're able to more focus. And another little trick, a little hack that I found is when you're doing work, you're only like the average person can only focus for like it's 20 to 40 minutes, like 100% focus. And some people aren't even at that 20-minute level, but I found is like I'm really good at 28 minutes. So what I do is set up a timer anytime that I'm doing any work. I set up a timer for 28 minutes. I work my butt off for 28 minutes, and as soon as that timer goes off, I get up, I go walk around, I do my push-ups, and then I come back and I get so much more work done in, like, we'll just say 2 hours that will used to take me 6 hours to do, just by breaking that down like that.
To have to get on your schedules, learn how to do your things.
I'm telling you, man, it's crazy. And that's the same thing that I did with my team is I got them on that little schedule. We found like what was the average for the team, right? And so we've just put them on that thing, and it just works so much better because so many people try to multitask. You try to switch from here to here, but multitasking is a bullshit. It doesn't happen. You can't do it. And just switching from saying, like, if I was just chatting with you and I switched to writing an email, there's about a minute and a half mind gap in there between the transition. So, like, if you do that, transitioning back and forth, it's like a minute and a half every single time that you do that. If you do that 10 times in a half hour, you just wasted 15 minutes of that half hour. So you really did only 15 minutes worth of work.
Yeah, you're right about that one. Could you tell me what kind of legacy do you hope to leave behind you?
That's a good question. I That was one of those ones that helped me get to where I'm at today too. Is they call it the eulogy practice. So if you ever want to do it, it's act as if you were dead and you were able to go to your funeral and look at it from the outside. Like how many people would be there and what would they be saying about you? And when I first did it, man, I was a little bit nervous. I didn't know how many people would be there, and I did not know what the hell they would say about me. So the big thing is the legacy that I want to leave behind, man, is that I was a kind, I was a kind dude that looked out for other people. I respect it. I respect people. I respect the difference in everybody. And I did something in my life that helped. And if you help just one person, man, even just one person, you're doing something that many people never even do.
Yeah, you're right about that. My grandma used to tell me that all the time, what you just said. Could you tell me how do you measure your own success and happiness?
How do I measure it? Huh.
Yeah.
I think I just measure it. It's just one of those things. Actually, that's kind of a cool question because my book is called Asshole to Awesome, right? Awesome is my idea of a destination that I'm never going to get to. None of us are perfect. We can strive for excellence, and if we're striving for excellence, then we're going to be better than most. And you can't strive for perfection because you're just not going to get to perfect, right? You can strive for that. So what I started doing was using awesome as that destination, and I just enjoy the process every day of trying to get 1% better. That's like my mentality, is just getting 1% better. Is it going to happen every day? Hell no, man. There's days that I probably go backwards 10. I know in the long run, I am moving forward more than I'm moving backwards. And that's where we all have to be, because if you're not growing, you're dying. And that's for persons, that's for your mindset, that's for businesses, it's for countries, it's for everything. There's no such thing as stagnation, man.
Guys, your life decisions today.
Core values. I think I always try to look at everything from both sides of the picture, right? Your circumstances are going to be different than mine. Your perspective is going to be different than mine. And I try to respect, whoever it is, and try to see it from their side. So I guess core value is I just try to like be empathetic, man, and then kind. Just being kind in today's world is huge, because there's an overall lack of it. But the more you do it, the more it comes back around to you. So I'd say those, man. Empathy and that kindness is kind of what I try to live by.
How has your perspective on life changed from your early age to now?
That's a huge one, because like I said earlier, man, I lacked forgiveness. I lacked gratitude. I thought anything that I was able to get was owed to me, because, I had a little difficult of an upbringing. So, and I see, like why people get into that, because everybody teaches you that shit in school and whatever. Poor Johnny couldn't because of this, and poor Sally couldn't do this because of this. And you can do anything that you freaking want to do in life, just about. If you truly want to do it, you can do it. There is somebody at every single level that started way before any of us have started.
Well, Mr. Wood, I'm thank you for coming. I'm glad to have you. Glad to have a good conversation with you. We're gonna call this one an end, buddy. Have a blessed one. Have a wonderful Christmas and have a happy New Year's. Thank you. Thank you.